is Wednesday, May 20th, 10 a.m. County Court is in session for the general part of our meeting. We'll begin with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We are, during the pandemic, we have this our first meeting limited open use of the public. We have 6 chairs available. And we will open the phone line for public comment. See if we have any comments that way.
I move to approve the Harney County Court meeting minutes of May 6, 2020.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve May 6th minutes. As written, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Opportunity for public comment. I forgot to do this. We figured it would have called Carrie, though, if they were trying.
Welcome to AT&T's teleconference service. Please enter your access code, followed by the pound sign. To join the conference as the host, press star. Otherwise, please enter your host password, followed by the pound sign.
That's what we don't have in front of us. Let's carry what the host password is. No. That's the access code, but there should be.
Your host password was not recognized. Host password, followed by the pound sign.
No, the host password, not the access code. Oh, there it is.
Okay, you're right here, your host.
Your
I put that in there
Thank
just
you.
in case of an emergency.
Thank you.
Hello?
There are 1 participants on the call, including you. You are joining your conference as the host. For a menu of available commands, press star pound.
Okay, we're open for public comment. We'll leave the line open till 10:15. See if we get any comments. We can move on with new business. Item 1. That would be the COVID update.
Okay, so for COVID, we are moving into recovery now. The whole state is. Well, some of the counties are still dealing with response, but most of the rest of the counties are dealing with recovery, which I'm available to help, but in emergency management, recovery is usually given over to a specialized team, which we already have, which Patty's in charge of that group, which would be her in dealing with the chamber and economic development and some other things, but I will still be available to help them with some of the items that they may come across. That puts me back into dealing with just regular stuff, which I say that we're in recovery, but honestly, the state is still dealing with the response. We're still getting PPE, we're still having to put in numbers for our burn rates and everything else. So until that's totally over, I'm still gonna be necessarily working out of my office. We did close the EOC last week on Friday. So it's no longer open, but anybody who needs anything can still contact me. My phone number is still available to everybody. I'm still giving PPE out to dentist office, law enforcement, fire, hospital, any doctor offices, private doctor offices and stuff. We're still supplying PPE to them. So that's pretty much it with emergency management for right now.
Some of the public that has required, employees are required to face masks, or some places want customers to wear face masks. Can we resupply any of that masks?
What we
I haven't been
are
asked, I'm
having
just
right now is people are making a bunch of these, they're bringing them to health department, so the cloth face masks. Those are all anybody needs. If it gets to where certain company or businesses want certain PPE, like the regular mask, just to have some on hand in case somebody comes in without a mask, I could possibly supply some. I can't supply a lot because we have to be careful with what we have. Because if it does start ramping up again, I want to make sure we have enough for our hospital.
We don't want broadcast. We have any, but
Yeah.
first come to shove, you get.
If I have to, I can give a few out, but what we're gonna be pushing is to get everyone who's been making these cloth face masks, ask for them to make more, and everybody to at least have it on their person. I know it's, right now I have allergies real bad, so it's hard for me to breathe through this thing. But when I'm coughing and people look at me thinking COVID, but I have been blood tested, I do have allergies. So I am going to be putting out messaging and talking with Jolene about getting more messaging out to make, for people to make more of these still. Until nobody is asking for any, then we'll be done.
So some of the funding, of course, you're aware that you and Judge Reynolds are putting figures together for the first through May 15th ask.
Yes.
But since some of the federal funding is to go through December 31st, as we, public health, everybody looks ahead toward the fall, or to, should it, there be ebbs and flows of it, are we thinking yet about what we need? Because we're in the budget.
Well, that's what I'm still
season
going to be
and-
working on, is gathering more PPE, figuring out what we're low on, what we need. As long as the state's still supplying hand sanitizer, I'm taking it. I'm storing it, because it's not going to go bad between now and this fall. And we
How about for the full year, which I know we can't foresee and predict exactly, but if there's anything that you and Judge Reynolds think needs to be added to the budget for this coming year, make sure.
yes, and I've got a couple things to talk about here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that I was just dealing with the actual COVID response.
Are you gonna start that?
The COVID recovery?
No, what you're talking to me about. Are you going into that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
This was the next part, which is the thing that we've been working on with me and Judge Reynolds. I have, some of our monies are already federal monies. So far, we've only spent around, I think, 10,000 total, but a lot of that money is FET money that I received. Some of the FET money I got, which was an extra 33,000 that we received, is not just good for till the end of this fiscal year, it's good until the end of the next fiscal year. They are already I don't know if we received the money yet.
In the public,
It was another 33,000 for public health. They were supposed to send the check and not, usually we do a reimbursement type thing where we put in how much we spent and they send us the money. This one, they were supposed to send us 33,000 and some change.
Jolene sent me like a remittance for the payment that's coming in.
Yeah, that's a regular thing, but there was supposed to be another 33,000 that they were supposed to just send us the check and it's ours.
I have to look.
Yeah, but when it comes to that, most of everything that I've spent, of the 10 grand that I've spent, has been covered under the FED. So some of those monies, I've still got to talk with Judge Reynolds about it, but I don't know if we're going to be able to claim that. But we can claim some of the other expenses. We've had payroll expenses for employees dedicated to COVID-19. Our 911 center is our primary EOC. Every dispatcher over there is our logistics section chiefs. They are on 24/7. So during this response, their salaries will be covered, or should be covered. I don't know how they're wanting it at the state, but at FEMA level, it's only the overtime that gets covered. So if the state wants the complete payroll expense, then they'll get the whole expense. But with the FEMA part, we're only going to be getting back covering the overtime of those employees. We did have a temporary employee over there, that will be 100% covered. So we're still gonna be getting the money back.
But aside from that, but then all the salaries of Jolie and Deanne. I mean,
Well, and that's
they
it.
figured out some of their.
With Jolene, the OHA had her put some of, a lot of the COVID expenses under some of her programs. And if her programs are already being federally covered, then I don't know if we're gonna be able to,
Can't double dip there.
yeah. So I gotta still talk with her to find out which ones of those we can actually look at. Some of the other ladies over there, it may be the same thing. If they were paid under just the public health, aspect of it, then we can cover that. Because that is our chunk of money that we pay into it. Or you guys pay into it.
Their time has been diverted from their normal duties to COVID. I
Yes.
think we can claim that.
And your hours, will be,
We cannot claim my hours. I am, 3/4 of my money is federal funds. So we can't claim me at all. Even the other part of me that isn't claimed, I can't claim. So that's the only bad thing about me. But I work a lot of hours.
that's the only bad thing about you. Oh.
Well, you know, when it comes to getting something more out of me, I mean, yeah. Okay, is there any other questions on that part?
So recovery, so COVID, well, do you see any aspects of recovery besides, the economic stuff? I mean, what,
Usually we have, in a disaster, you have damages to buildings or people, property, stuff like that, that has to be corrected, fixed, or whatever. That's a lot of money. We lost revenue. A lot of places, businesses lost revenue. That's gonna be something dealing in recovery, which with Denise, with economic development, and Lola with the chamber, I don't think we're gonna have to go into any of the other recovery, the RSFs that we have listed. Within emergency management, you have 18 emergency support functions. In recovery, you only have 6. And they're a little bit totally different than what I usually deal with. The only one I really see is the economic recovery. And the other one's dealing with buildings, dealing with putting people back in homes. I don't see that being one of the things that we're gonna be dealing with. It's gonna be more of getting the businesses back open and trying to maybe recover some of their lost revenue with the federal government if they allow it. I mean, I know we had the PPP or whatever it was, and a lot of our people, I think only one company was able to get anything out of that.
No, there's been.
Okay. Well, a while back when it first
Yeah,
was
at
coming
first
out,
it
I had
was-
only heard
it
of
was
one
not
company that was able to even get through the door.
I wanna say I've heard upwards.
No, Bank of Eastern Oregon alone had 26 loans.
I don't know why, well, it's not as many as that, but they were in 15 to 20.
Yeah.
There've been,
I know I've heard from other people, business owners who didn't get it or wasn't on some of it and they weren't happy.
or some of them said they don't want it.
Yeah, and some did say that. Part of the problem was with that, the PPP, was the bigger corporations who could recover on their own monies decided to dip into that money, and that just took it away from the small business
It's
owners.
like the Lakers,
Yeah,
well,
they give it back.
I'll be talking to Greg Smith, but I think the CRT can be the economic recovery
Yeah.
function as far as a
Yeah.
community-based
They
meeting,
already have their eye on.
because we don't need to have,
and that's it, we don't need to have 2 separate people or groups working on the same thing. If people can merge together and do the recovery function, that would work. Next week I will be on vacation, so if you have questions, I am available by phone. I will not be around in this area,
we'll try not to bug you.
but you can. It's not a
Thank
problem. Any other questions on this part?
I mean, I'm assuming any of our costs for putting in modifications to the building itself. have been included.
Like the screens that we've done,
Screen,
that did
yes.
come out of the county budget, so that will be on this paper.
And then, also the VPN server, our firewall server, we had to enhance and buy extra licenses so that we could work away from home if needed during COVID. Is that an expense that we can include, or is
Well,
it?
we had that.
We
Just went-
had that.
Just went back.
But we also had to buy additional licenses beyond what we normally purchase.
I can talk to OEM and see if we can get that covered.
Because he said before we only had a couple, like 2 licenses, and now we have 20.
Okay.
You know, in the fall you'd have something for.
And I'll get with them, I'll get with the state and make sure that that can be added in, at least onto the FEMA side.
Being able to telework, should
Yeah.
be something that, the
We
county's
had
had to
several
incur.
people do that.
Yeah, there's some things that cannot be recovered, through FEMA, like if,
I'm talking more of the state than.
well, that's it, the state is not really gonna be paying, I don't think, giving us much money. Well, they may give us
No,
a
they
chunk.
could have very narrow scope.
Yeah. But FEMA, there's certain guidelines under FEMA, we should be able to recover quite a bit of our money, except for 25%. Yes, that would take up to
So I
2.
wanna hit this,
Hit the
everything I
state.
can get on this first, because what is things.
The licenses and stuff, we should be able to put them on there. And on the state side, I'll call and talk to Kelly Jo and see what she says. To me, I think it is. Now, on the FEMA side, when it comes to like telehealth and stuff like that, if we need to buy a computer for a nurse, that's not covered. It's not an expense that they'll pay back. But if I had to get a computer for the EOC, which we did, that is covered. They have a very tight, window of what we can and cannot count as a expense.
Yeah, but all the plexiglass barriers.
Yes, all that's covered because that's part of the, for compliance measures, at least through the state. Well, even under the FEMA, we could possibly get it back under the FEMA, but if we get it back from the state, then we're not gonna get
We're
it back
fully
through FEMA.
covered,
Yeah.
Well, and I'd rather the states have full coverage than FEMA usually.
Well, with FEMA, it usually takes 2 years at the end of the disaster.
Yeah, we don't want to recover.
This, honestly, we have no idea how long this is gonna last. With COVID, every week, it's something new. We don't know enough about this virus. In the first couple weeks, it doesn't bother kids. Now we're finding out it actually bothers, and we've lost a few kids, like in the state of New York, I think they lost 5 kids through the multi-symptom inflammatory disease or whatever it's called. It is affecting our kids, it is affecting everybody, so I'm still leery about opening up. I know we have to, but I'm worried. But that's me, that's my job. And as long as we're up here in our plans and how we're gonna do things, then if it's just this big of a disaster, we'll be able to cover it. And my job is to think of the worst thing that's ever gonna happen and plan for it. And if we can have the plans for that, we're good.
Hang up your phone for public comment. No calls.
All right, last thing. I'll just give you guys
So
a
Paul-
copy of this.
Paul brought this to me.
And there's a reason I'm giving you this, to explain, part of what, I brought to Judge Reynolds.
So, we put in 39,000 into emergency management. So he's got a request that if we made him full-time through OEM, it would cost us more, but we'd also get a bigger reimbursement. It's still gonna cost us more, but to make him full-time, then we could still have our public health emergency
Preparedness.
person, so we give this person in half. I want everybody, you guys first, if you want to take the budget board next Wednesday.
So what FTE are you now?
For OEM, I'm 0.5 FTE. From public health, I'm 0.5 FTE. So in reality, I put in probably 80% of my time into emergency management. I do get all my public health stuff done, which is why they don't complain. And I pass all of the reviews that we've had, and I've never had a complaint. All we've ever done is been able to build up. When I first took this over, it was behind, way behind, yes it was. And I got everything caught up in, I think it was 5 months, and we've been through 2 triennial reviews through public health, One, because we were in a different group and then they moved us, and because it was gonna move us out to 4 years, they went ahead and did a triennial review, again, every 3 years review. So we did 2 reviews in a row, and we've had nothing stellar marks for that. Through OEM, I was able to get everything caught up. We've got a new natural hazard mitigation plan. Our EOP was updated, it's being re-updated again. All that stuff takes time. And then during this, it came about that, what I gave you is a copy of an organizational chart of how we have it broke down for this disaster. I was covering the EOC manager, the safety officer, the liaison officer, operations manager, planning manager, and the finance manager. We need more people to get trained into this, and this was a lot of work just for me to be able to do every single thing. When I was still doing both that and OEM stuff, all day long I would be either on a phone call or a webinar and not have any time to actually deal with the response or anything, because they want me on the phones for meetings, and it just can't happen. We did bring Tom Sharp on part-time. He used to be our emergency manager and vet person years ago, but he's not gonna want to continue he's not gonna stay on to do it all the time. And he's not gonna volunteer in the future all the time. He was just this a one-time shot that we had to bring him on.
We're expecting a surge.
Yeah. With him coming on to help, it did relieve some of the stuff for me to be able to work over here and do the OEM side of stuff and get a lot of things done. Dealing with the burn rates, all of our finance things, and I was even still doing some of the logistics stuff, even though we have logistics people. It just made it a little bit easier on me. Instead of only getting 1 day or no days off, I was able to get up to 2 days off and sleep nonstop for 2 days. That's what I do on my days off, I sleep. Because this just takes a lot out of me. So what I am asking is to become full-time emergency manager, even if it's on a 2-year trial basis, to add $23,500 more to my budget, which would mean
We're
the
not
county would
doubling at
pay,
39.
Yeah, instead of
23
$39,000.
23,630 was it?
No, 23,500.
It was 23.
It will raise us up to 62,500 is what the county would pay instead of 39. But in return, we get 62,500 from OEM and another extra 12. It's almost $1,300 for our population
basis.
Yeah. So the budget for this department alone would then raise up to between $120,000 and $130,000. And with that money, we have some discrepancies within emergency management we need to build on. And we need money for that. So if I can get the money, and I'm gonna be working on something for you to give to you guys for the budget board, so that it will explain a lot more. And I will do that before I leave for vacation, so that you have it before next Wednesday. But it would help us a lot and get us better prepared for some of these things. The state itself has said that we are ready for the Cascadia earthquake. This wasn't even anything even close to the Cascadia earthquake, and I'm telling you right now, the state failed. Big time. And we did the best we could, and honestly, we did a lot better than some places, even though we only had the one case. We had 2, but only 1 county for here. Even though we did that, we still only spent $10,000. And yeah, it still covered under like theft and everything else. Other counties spent, well, Rankin spent at least $125,000 to $200,000 for the one case they had. So we're doing something right here. And that's why I'm asking if we can get a little bit more money into the program, we can actually get more people trained, so it's not me covering most of these positions.
So we would have to open up the vet position.
It would open up to a .5 vet position, which I have talked to Jolene. She could then bring back a .5 tobacco person, and that would be a full-time position right there. And that would be covered 100% by those programs. No match to the private county.
But benefits and how it, over time,
There would be no overtime, it would be a salary position like mine. And with benefits and stuff, I'm still looking at 60, 63. Both of them programs together is about 70,000.
Yeah, it would cover
It would cover everything for that person.
so are you, what do you think, Judge Ramos?
it. I think it's worth the pitch to the budget board. We're seeing more and more of this stuff come at us. And I want us to be prepared in the best way possible. He puts in a ton of hours, and there's absolutely no doubt there.
Yeah,
And
he works hard and.
I don't get comp time, I don't get overtime, I salary, and I put in on average minimum 60 hours most of the time, sometimes up to 80 hours, which is why when I do take my days off, I'm exhausted, I sleep.
he's not saying it, but it's not because he's whining and wants more. He's wanting what's best for the county.
Yeah, it isn't for me. This is for the county. I want to be able to build. When I first took over, the only people outside of fire who had incident command system training was basically your emergency management, nobody else. And if we have a disaster, we need to be able to fill most of these positions. Currently now, since I've taken over, we've been able to get the sheriff, which he's gone now, but Lieutenant Needham is still trained up through operations and planning. But he's more on the law enforcement side. If it was a law enforcement issue, he could handle falling into this position. And that's it. Depending on the disaster, is who to bring these people in. If we have a law enforcement issue, we need Lieutenant Needham to handle operations. If it's a flood, earthquake, something like that, then I would need somebody else. I can't pull a law enforcement officer off of his job to do EOC work. So I need people multiply trained. I mean, I'm trained in 3 different things. Lieutenant Needham's trained in 2 different things. Suzanne is trained within 3 different things. So I mean, I've got a bunch of people
Even though
trained.
I don't think you have to do the ICSs. I have 3, but I mean, that's part of it. We're all supposed to be trained.
Right.
He is the trainer.
Yeah, and I am an ICS trainer.
Just to show you that I guess that, to me, that's just to show we're not where we should be.
Let me ask you something, because I see value in what you're saying. But one thing that I like to know, and maybe Judge Reynolds, you might be able to inquire, is how are some of the other counties that are a little bit similar to us, how do they staff theirs? And is that adequate, just to see what it looks like?
Well, Lincoln County is similar to us,
Which
where Lincoln,
Lincoln?
where their emergency manager was part-time FEP, part-time emergency manager. Last year, she got a full-time assistant. So now she actually has somebody else in that because it is a toll to do both jobs. Both jobs, no matter if it was a full-time emergency manager and a full-time FEP, I have to do the same amount of work each one of those do. And I'm only part-time on both of them. So no matter what I gotta do even though I'm only paid 20 hours, I do 40 hours worth of work in each of those jobs.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious, not because other
Yeah.
counties are necessarily
Grant.
right, but.
Grant County has a split system. They have a separate FEP and they have a separate emergency manager. Now their emergency manager, they only pay, it's a 0.5. And I'm not saying nothing bad about Grant County, but it's bad up there. Their emergency manager quit. They have a current emergency manager who's temporary, and he already told them he's not gonna keep doing it.
Mel here has a full-time.
Yeah, he's a full-time, and he's a sheriff's lieutenant who's doing it over there.
It's different.
And they have a
It's
separate
normal, it's
FEP.
different in all 36
Yeah.
counties.
Yeah, no, I'd like to just hear that, just.
And some
That's good to know.
FEP people are nurses in some counties. And some work for the sheriff's department as an actual deputy. Deschutes County, you have Sergeant Garrity, he's their emergency manager, and then you have his assistant, who is a deputy also, and she does the FEP, but they actually work together. So even if I bring in someone who's FEP, I would still help in FEP, because we do a lot of stuff together. Plans and exercises, stuff like that, we would still do stuff together. So I would still venture over a little bit into FEP, and that person that's in FEP could venture over a little bit into my side, and we would be able to, mesh it in and work well together, just like a lot of these other counties have done.
Plus, another thing is the city managers are their own emergency managers.
Because the cities want to separate and have their
It's also
own,
non-existent.
So it falls to us.
yeah, and that's a lot of work, because I'm having to do the finance part of their job. Because it's still, no matter what they can't do, it falls to me.
Should they compensate us for it? Yeah, but they don't got it. But maybe something down the
Well,
road we can ask for too.
I wanna say that the
It would
EOC,
be
If they could
good.
each chip in 5,000.
Yeah, I mean, because then if they each chipped in 5,000, you'd really only be raising 13,000, which,
I
that's
think
probably the
that you've provided a
conversation.
lot of value to the cities as well, maybe that would be a conversation. The EOC, as
And then-
was activated for this, ran well.
Yeah.
What I liked is all these kind of faded
Yeah,
ones that are just people that come in and do these jobs when
well,
they were
because,
there. I saw it get tighter.
yeah,
I saw, there was a Forest Service rep that started out at one of the meetings and seemed somewhat disinterested, but by the end was fully engaged and said, well, I really didn't know why I needed to be here, but now I see, and it was the way it's supposed to be.
well, and that's it. We had to go and talk to the Forest Service about using one of their tree coolers in the event. We did get a bad case of COVID here, and we started getting a lot of people dying. New York City was using refrigerated trucks and trailers to hold bodies. And we don't have that luxury here, because we were able to find a refrigerated truck who may be able to help us in that, but that would still be only able to fit so many bodies into that. So we had to say, okay, we still need possibly this big, huge tree cooler that could fit half the county.
Worst case scenario, guys.
Worst case
yes.
scenario.
Well, like even when the Forest Service was talking about summer fire response, et
Yeah.
cetera, and then the people in the room were able to bring their own piece of suggestions as to what some of the camp areas could be
Yeah.
and that they had thought of, and so it was what it should be, which is where you solve these issues and start planning.
And I don't try to scare people. I know I've scared Bobby Joe in the past, walking in, talking to the judge in the break room about where do we have land, and yeah, we have land down Cali. Yeah, I need a place to possibly bury a bunch of people. And she kind of was like, what? Who are we burying? But I have to think of everything worst case scenario, and that's the difference between me and some of the other people. Some of them, like Jenny at Lincoln County, she's awesome. She thinks of work. She has plans for anything you can think of.
Jenny calls in the public safety meetings a lot, or for being there. She's good.
Yeah, she honestly,
She's been through a lot in Lincoln County.
out of the emergency managers, I would say she is our number one in the whole state. Now, knowledge-wise for emergency manager overall would be Kelly Jo at the state. She is she is the first person I ever call, and she used to be our rep for this area, and I would always call her, and I have a new rep who I never can get a hold of. I still call Kelly Jo.
Well, even though there's that whole statewide system, we are remote, and we basically need to
Take care of
always
ourselves.
And that's it.
Figure it out.
We've got to be able to, during the Cascadia earthquake, they had plans to bypass us for food, fuel, everything. And that could last for months. And I was the first person, and I don't know why no one else thought of this, but I called up our public assistance lady, Julie Slevin, at the state. And I was like, okay, well, since this is going to happen, here's the scenario. If we're not getting food coming in, can I pay our ranchers? And she was like, why don't you pay ranchers for cattle to feed our people? No one has ever called me, ever asked that question. So she called up to FEMA, and we got permission that if in the event of a major disaster and we have no food, FEMA will cover paying for cattle for us to be able to feed everybody within the community. So no one's going to go starving. I mean, by the end of it, they may be sick of hamburger or steak, but
Hope you're not a vegetarian.
yeah, if they are, then there's plenty of grass with cattle.
I think it's something that we need to propose to the cities of picking up part of that, because if we're providing services for them, they need to be also aware of those services and budgeting for those services.
Do we provide services for the tribe as well or not?
No, the tribe has their own emergency manager. We work well with Kenton, so that's not a problem. With the cities, I know that they're always tight, so I was gonna propose this to the cities, and I had discussed it in one of our, meetings, policy group meetings. But it's gonna be a hard sell for them, I know, because they're tight with money. I already do some of the work. State Homeland Security grants every year. They have someone, Tom Sharp actually writes some of the grants for them. This year, he because he's got so many other things that he's involved in, his grants weren't necessarily the best. So I got with Scott, who's the fire chief, and was able to go in and fix quite a bit of the mistakes. So I helped to write the grants for them. I have offered to help to write grants for the airport and some other things for the cities. So we are.
Providing them a grant writer off front.
I think I know what you're gonna say, but during non-crisis times, is there enough work to have 1.5?
Like I was saying, both of those jobs are full-time positions. And any other county that has full-time, they have all that work to do. I have to do the same amount of work that they do. So, that's why usually I work over, or I come in way early and leave.
Is the public health aspect?
It's the same thing. There are a lot of requirements that we're supposed to fulfill. And with OEM, I know that they're adding some more requirements into the system. And after this, I see a lot more changes and more requirements coming out of this one.
Well, if the state gets cut, I mean, it could affect emergency management.
Yeah.
More than come down to the county level responsibility.
And we've done.
When would you have to know to let them know we're gonna go full-time?
They would at least need probably 30 days notice. And honestly, it's really not even that. It's when we put in the paperwork, which is usually 30 days out, we put in what we're requesting. And that's when they will see the paperwork that says, okay, he's going full-time.
And they would cover that.
Yeah.
They would say.
Once we put in that application that shows how much we're requesting, and then I come up and have you sign it off, and
I'm just wondering how much time we would have to talk to the cities.
Yeah.
That's.
I
can see Burns almost saying, well, why can't our fire chief, instead of paying somebody, why not make him do on top of what he does?
He already does some of it, and he's burned out.
I know.
Because they got him doing so much extra stuff on top, and he's not allowed overtime, and he does overtime. He's like me, he just works and works. But I know he's burned out on it a little bit too. And I've talked to him about this, and he would welcome some of it too.
Can you sway the city to find somebody?
Probably not. And the problem is with the city, with like Burns, they're gonna have somebody new. If they can ever find somebody that can stay in the job.
So if we didn't budget, it would just reduce what we put in our general fund, our reserve. So that's where it would come from, you guys are wondering.
And like I said, we can do it as a temporary thing for a year or two to try it out, see how things go, and then.
And see how our finances.
And if things start going back down to where nothing is happening, then we could possibly go back down. But as long as something's happening like this going on, and this could go on for the next couple of years, having me doing both jobs, I'll get it done, but I cannot promise you that I won't quit after a couple of years of being burned out. Because it does take a toll on the body. And if I had hair, it would be probably all gray.
And long.
Well, yeah. But I will leave that up to you guys to discuss at a later time or
So
whenever.
yes, give me the paperwork to give to the budget.
Yeah, I'll have something made up for you guys before I leave
Take it
on
from there.
vacation.
We'll take it from
And, you know, it's just a request, it's not, you know, a demand or anything, I'm still gonna do the job, whatever happens. But while this is going on, I'm gonna need somebody like Tom, even if I don't get this request, we need somebody to help with the hospital side and the public health side, and, cause there is a lot of work that I've been working on and having to jump around between meetings and everything else, and all the ones the state wants me in, and then our regular meetings that we already have for our fire boards and everything else that I already deal with. Now we're going back to opening them up to where I'm going to be extremely busy through this until this is gone. Any questions that anybody needs from me? All right, so I took up 45 minutes of your time.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks.
All right.
So with
Now
the
we're going to
state's
discuss a little bit
funding,
there.
they said anything that wasn't budgeted up to March 27th could be included, possibly not in this first round of allocations from the CARES, but perhaps in the second round. Some of this, if we're having to increase on this side, could be included in that. That would be my,
But we can't claim in his time, because he's federally funded.
but the county's money that they're having to put in addition
Yeah.
to make him full-time, we could claim. Is that?
Yeah, so you're just gonna carry on, yeah.
Because it's becoming, due to COVID, we need to increase these services, and the county's expense is going to increase due to COVID, because prior to COVID, we were needing this level of service.
So the county costs,
Should be able to be written off, or not written off, but reimbursed through that CARES money.
that's good thought. I'll email Gina on that.
Because it would
I
be a
think it's-
change after the March 27th, which was the,
Yeah.
you know,
March
no expenses prior to that.
Yeah,
But we're
March
already
15th, May
budgeted.
1. March 15th. No, March 1 to May 15th is what we're thinking right now. So I'll email Gina and see if we can. Because I think your answer will be put it down.
Well, that would be my assumption, that if you're, you know, having to increase due to, you know, a long-term pandemic.
Yeah, like I said, they're expecting us to go on through at least into this year.
Yeah, I mean, everything so far has been December 31st at least, and those revenue, or those expenses would be incurred between that time frame.
Good. Maybe have that answer. Maybe have that answer before.
The budget.
Yeah, I'll have to go back, right? Okay, move on. Item 2, road naming,
By the way, I noticed that we have
is that not on the agenda?
it's not on the
Okay.
agenda.
She was gonna go back and put it on. So, we asked, that's the meeting where, how long our resolution was good for.
Yes, we had that discussion.
So, went and Tammy dug it up for me, and I went, we only put it through April 1st. We were very optimistic that thing was gonna come and go really quick. So, this amends that resolution 2020-05 and extends it, emergency declaration through the end of September.
And since I'm not conversant on those ORSs, why that date?
Just, well, because
It
we know the
falls in line with what
government's,
the governor's
I
order.
think hers is September 20th actually, but it
Okay.
falls in line with her
All right,
temporary rules that stretch out into September.
so,
So we should have this, just keeps us
I would,
available for getting any funds.
I move to approve resolution 2020-12 in the matter of amending resolution 2020-05, declaring a local state of emergency within Harney County. And this would amend it to expire on September 30th, 2020, unless extended by the court.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2020-12 in the matter of amending resolution 2020-05, declaring a local state of emergency within Harney County due to COVID-19. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, that was embarrassing.
That's why I said I could not remember what date.
I mean, neither. April just flew by.
I can't remember its name. Randomly.
Okay. Now item two. Since Patty's on. Patty's seen one of these before. I think you have. That was just a lane or a road gets three
Residents.
residences they can request to have their road maintained. All the parties have to sign on. I don't know if you're familiar with where this is at, if you go past the upper housing reservation, staying on Radar Lane, there's three houses that sit back to the left. It's it's the road that accesses those three established homes. Actually, I believe the Mocan home is actually built yet. They built a shop and they're gonna be building it. But it does give them, they own the property.
I did have a question on section 2 on page 4, where number 7, it says, do you use this road to access your property, and nothing is checked or X'd on that. Is that an oversight or?
That's an oversight. That's
Because
what,
obviously they do
that's
use
what
it.
it's for. Yeah. I would take that as an oversight.
I think it's in the narrative.
Yeah.
So when they included map, it really doesn't show,
Big map's too big.
yeah, but it's here you have your risers property that's shown, but they aren't one of the petitioners.
It's coming this way before that corner. So if you're coming, so if you go up to upper housing, say this is upper housing road. If you're coming this way, there's three houses sitting back here, three properties before this corner. It catches Harrell's. It's south of that road. It's, like we get a smaller map.
Well, I don't have any problem with renaming the request.
I know what road it is, 'cause I asked email Bryce, I says, when this happens, Bryce, every others is out there on Radar Lane. I says, how does the EMS and first responders and everybody get notified that this has changed? And that's part of our monthly quarterly contract, we get money from the state, for keeping all that stuff updated. Part of his job. And so once it's approved, it magically goes into databases, et cetera, and they'll order a sign, they'll place a sign.
So is today a day where we would actually entertain approving it, or is this our first look at it?
We would approve. It doesn't have to have a second.
So on page 6, would there be a resolution number put into it? Whereas right now it's blank. And then also on the following page, that one, does that
That
need its own date? Oh, no, it's up there, I see it now.
I think that's something, so.
Has there
That's
been a
not part of,
resolution?
that's not part of
That's
this.
not, okay.
That's not part of this.
Oh, okay. So,
Has there already been a resolution number generated?
No, I can't hear you. Saw that Bryce provide this. You probably did. That's all stuff Bryce supplied, you probably didn't do any work. Yeah, that's the next.
sounds like all parties agreed on the first and second choice of name for the road, which was
Yeah.
not the case on
No, that's
the
fine.
previous.
That's right.
We had to take it back like 40 times.
Yeah.
Come to a consensus?
Sunrise. It's 2020-13. That was gonna be, yes. We just did 2020-12.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2020-13 in the matter of road naming in the county of Harney, state of Oregon.
I second.
Moved and seconded to approve resolution 2020-13 in the matter of road naming in the county of Harney, state of Oregon. New road shall be known as Sunrise Road. Off of Radar Lane. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, court order for the distribution of sale of county land.
Excuse me.
Is that why you were here?
Yeah, I didn't know if you needed any or not, it's pretty self-explanatory.
So the different pieces of land we've sold, this is through the year, not just a certain piece, this is what's
So-
accumulated.
We hold all the funds for county-owned property that is sold throughout the fiscal year, and then annually, the end of the year, we do a court order so we can disperse that to the tax districts.
But we, off the top, get 25%.
Yeah, 25% fee for the administration of it.
And then we still actually get a percentage of the remainder too.
Yeah, and that's all based on the tax percentage, is how those figures are based.
I move to approve the county court order presented in the matter of the distribution and sale of county land funds, dated May 20th, 2020.
Moved and seconded, it's the county court order in the matter of distribution and sale of county land funds and distribution of receipts. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I appreciate you coming in for these things, even though at some point I'll remember. From occasional time to time, I still appreciate hearing exactly what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Karen will be here to explain this one. I think I can do it. Finish up a root canal today, so
Fun.
yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So these are two pieces of property that are no longer anything to collect taxes on. The first one is unlivable, cherry roof collapse. She said it is basically down to nothing but the frame at this point. And management owners of the tractor home market slowly getting rid of it. The second one is one that caught fire. Shayla, and again, nothing there to recoup, so this just takes them off the tax roll, they don't get some notice.
And so then it won't be put back onto the tax rolls until property's been cleared and it's usable.
Right. The real property owns remains taxable, but not the structure.
But not,
The personal property.
just remove.
That's right. The land's.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So is there an order number attached, or is it just the order in
No number, just an order. It's just a court order. Resolutions and ordinances have numbers.
They make a motion to approve the order in the matter of request for cancellation of personal property taxes under ORS 311.790 from Harney County fixed asset laws.
the second that?
Second, the order in the matter of request for cancellation of personal property taxes, ORS 311.790 from Harney County fixed asset laws. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Your second on that. Then comes it back. So. Oh. Oh, I did jump in. Sorry, I missed the final approval.
I didn't.
Okay, so final approval of the Harney County reopening plan that we signed.
So we signed one on
We
May
can go
8th,
pretty,
and then after that, there were two instances prior to the reopening on May 15th where the state eventually contacted me as the point of contact with additional questions. And so this one is cleaned up with those questions in the document. So we have now an Appendix C before we did, which talks to the outbreak scenarios. And then a little bit on the testing information that they wanted, that they have put it right there where it could be. So other than that, it hasn't changed, but it makes it accurate. And so there is a signature page, we could pay, date and sign today, if you go to, that's how you want to do it. It's up to
And
you.
then it's been accepted. It's our
It-
first official meeting to
Right.
accept it.
Right, this would just be kind of for the record.
Yeah.
For the record,
The-
the updates.
The state was doing this with many counties, they were asking for more information very last minute, and sometimes we just say, send me an email, and it's good, but this makes it good. In case we want to post it, and in case we just want to have it for our records, but
Will we, so phase 2, will that attach to that plan? I mean, I know that's how you kind of set it up, but have we heard any more?
It's unclear at this point, there's not enough framework for phase 2 being thoroughly,
right,
even in draft form.
I I mean, they almost have to be asking for it by
We made this phase one, and then anything that is generated with the governor's office or the state saying, here's how it flows, we just refer them to the state guidance at this point, rather than writing it
Which
to
is
knowing
what
it
you
can change.
requested, yeah.
For instance, in the section on sector reopening guidelines, and this was this way when we signed it originally, it says, phase one reopen guidelines for Oregon businesses, employers, and the public are posted on OHA guidelines, and it has the website. Harney County businesses will be responsible at all times for ensuring they're following the most current guidelines, which can be expected to change over time. And then we go down, yeah, so, I mean, no, we don't really address phase two.
Right.
We just refer them to the state guidelines. And, so,
I wonder if phase two will require an in-depth, I would think it would require such an in-depth, because it's gonna be actually
I think that
lightning restrictions.
it'll really look at hospitalizations, you know, that gating criteria page. I think that it'll be mostly a review of that page. And then if you haven't had any drastic changes on that gating criteria, then
correct.
they will move you to the undefined phase two guidelines.
I thought it was interesting, the part they had, that you go back and take care of the last day. They wanted 3 examples, we only had 2.
Right.
They only
That-
required two in the end.
Yeah, well,
I
we
got a
don't
lot
have
of-
food processing, we don't have.
I got a lot of help, because as soon as we get that email during, budget board, and they said, by close of business, if you could provide this, you might be considered. I'm like, I called Representative Owens and said, do you know which counties already got approved? I need to be in touch with them. Do you know? And they had the state lady call me back, and I said, we don't have these 3 things that you put as examples for these 3 scenarios, but we do have a jail and we do have nursing home type scenarios. We don't have these other things. And she said, just give me 2. I said, great. I mean, just by the time I got home, 30 minutes later, a lot of
That's a
things were in
worthwhile
works
phone call.
to just get it done. So it was a lot of people were helping each other out, and the state was reasonable on that, because.
Patty should be able to be counted towards the
Yeah.
expense.
How many hours of your time?
Oh,
is
Stress
that?
alone.
Yeah.
But,
Can that cost money?
Well,
The
that's,
time that
I
you put
did
in on that
wonder,
plan, I think that's
it was
legitimate.
strictly COVID related, that previous she would be devoting her time to other duties, that she had to devote strictly
See,
to
that's how I
COVID.
look at it. So if it took you away from your normal duties, I think it's, I don't know. Commissioner,
Okay.
I'll ask you that one too.
because,
It would, because
if
it
we'd
did
have had
fall on
someone
Patty
who
to
do it,
develop it.
we would have asked, if it was
Yeah,
a
we
part-time
didn't have
job,
staff
we could have them do it,
to
we just
do it.
don't have staff.
Yeah.
And,
Where most of the other counties did provide staff to do it and would be counting those staff as such.
right.
True.
But that is, if you want to do another signature sheet, it's ready to go, it's what,
What's on?
so,
I'd make a motion to sign,
sign an updated,
yeah, to approve Harney County's reopening plan after amendments requested by the state. The second is to approve Harney County's reopening plan after amendments requested by the state. And it's final. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. And thank you again for working on this.
Tammy, I will get you this right after the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
I told you, Harlan had looked at all the state plans. I'm gonna put out on the web. Ours was top notch.
Who thought that?
Harlan Boyardi, graduates of Harney County.
Yes,
Former
you did.
professor at Lincoln Community College. He thought it was
She's
very, very well
tailored
done.
it to Harney County, and I thought that was well done. Looking at the other plans versus what we submitted, it was direct to what our needs were.
And I even remember, I'd heard and knew what the jail was already kind of doing, but they hadn't submitted something in writing. And that day, Roxanne was off, and I got hold of him, Jenkins and said, this is last minute, but I said, here's the deal, if you want to think about it, call me back and talk to it, I'll take notes or whatever. He actually wrote something up. He called Roxanne and then wrote something up, emailed it to me, so it was a lot of people helped that day. It was last weekend.
Everybody wanted to be
I-
dark.
Yeah, no, I kind of like that aspect of it, I just didn't appreciate it happening the way it did.
When they had it in
What
their
if I had
possession
looked at
for
my
several
email
days?
for another few hours?
So, item 6, bargain and sell deeds. We have to go back and fix a few things. I can explain it really well now. Like this. So all the private property that we sold, or county property that we sold, has to come to us first for the approval. And then they go out and we market it. The sheriff has sold it, which is fine. We can use them for their civil deputy to sell the property. But then the paperwork's been signed by the sheriff as if it was a sheriff's sale, like it was a seized property.
Oh,
These have to be signed off by us because we authorize the sale.
were these irregular shape?
Well, those and then the others that people approached us on that we did our policy, we needed to clean them up. We'll
Right.
give you the deed. So we had to go back and fix 5.
Okay.
And now it's clear in my head. If it's something the sheriff, from a drug bust, the sheriff can sell legally, that's a sheriff's sale, he signs off. Something we authorize for sale as a county court, we have to be the ones that sign off on that deed.
Yeah, because he's just acting as an agent for the county court.
Yeah, and that's where, so they would go back over there, they would take the paperwork and do it, and get back, and we all learned. So we have to correct all these, I mean, if they're correct, we just have to.
But these are previous sales, this isn't anything new.
Nothing new.
So I read through them all, but I wasn't sure
Yeah, it's just,
if anything was.
it's just making the paperwork
And my-
correct and putting the deeds into the new owner's names.
Since they each say, for, in this case, deputy clerk to sign it, and personally appeared before her and seal affixed here, and so do you do the seal on each of these after you just have a word?
Yeah.
She's gonna watch us sign them all right now.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. I
We'll
didn't look at
watch.
them, I just wanted to make sure I understood how she does stuff.
And then the, probably doesn't need a motion because we started the sale with a motion to sell, and now we need to have a motion to
These, the one by
sign it,
one?
to sign the
or-
sale deeds.
Or each, or,
Let's do them all in one motion, let's mention the names that are right up here.
okay.
Some are those little odd things like you proposed, some are actual lots.
Sounds like a good one for Kristen to make.
Yeah, so get all the names
Okay.
in like you. There is 5, right?
Yes.
Paperwork straight. Well, and why are some of them bolded and some of them not on the names? Is that just a typo or is there any? Okay.
Yeah, that isn't a recording requirement. That's,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I was like, is
No.
there something to that or is it
No.
just a fluke? Okay.
The assessor straightened me out, good.
Cool. The way you explained it, I'll probably remember that now.
I
You know,
had
that
it
makes
that way, and it
sense.
finally just went,
yeah.
got it, now I got it. It's just, I know we've got issues with it, but I got it now.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the bargain and sale deed for W. Reed and Linda G. Taylor, Cora Miller, Ray Jean Newman, and Gretchen Nichols. Harney County Post number 63, American Legion, Department of Oregon, and Nonprofit Corporation, and Melinda A. Moffat and Robert L. Wolsaka on May 20th, 2020.
I second.
The movement seconded to approve the bargain and sell deeds as mentioned. By name. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. stack of stuff. Discussion on federal land subcommittee AOC. We received an email from AOC talking about this one committee that kind of serves two purposes, but two different facets of the state utilize some lobbying services and have had troubles getting together on
The direction.
agreement
for
and
the
direction.
lobbyists.
Agreement and direction for lobbyists. And kind of been contentious, and AOC has asked if we want to see this committee stay in force, or should it be dissolved? And so I put on the agenda to have discussion, so we can get back an answer to the AOC.
So from the email, it says the tri-chairs are proposing to disband the federal land subcommittee, pursue the U.S. Forest Service lands work through the Natural Resource Policy Steering Committee at AOC, and discontinue the use of federal lobbyists. How much do we pay, if any, to be on that subcommittee? Or have we?
The natural resources committee, we do pay a portion, $2,000 or $3,000. There's never been a charge for this part. We've had voting rights. One commissioner has always been given the permission to vote for our county.
So we're perhaps some counties, not us, paying an additional for federal lands that's different than a natural resource? Because did you see Jay?
Well, there's an expense for the lobbyists that is being discussed, and so there must be some sort of fee in order to pay for the lobbyists.
And
That's been the hang up, is some were paying, and this is what Jack Freeman was mentioning, is they were shouldering quite a bit of it, and for the portion that they were shouldering, he felt that they should maybe just step out and do their own versus stay with this particular group to try to achieve those goals.
I cannot recall a bill outside of our normal AOC bill that breaks out your optional things you can pay for, which
Because,
natural resources is an option we always pay, but I don't.
because did you see the email from Jay Bosevich, Commissioner Bosevich?
No.
Let's see, wait. Okay, Susan answered it. So he sent it this morning and said, Susan Morgan, I assume that means our dues will be reduced. I think Lane County was paying an additional $19,000 plus for federal lands. And she said, Jay, sorry for the delay in answering. Yes, the dues that member counties pay to federal lands would go away. So you say you don't think we were paying anything to federal lands?
She said she attached it.
I have attached dues payments in the budget, and it was distributed.
Harney was,
We didn't ever get the two confused.
3,198.
So then, yes, we did.
It says the natural resource policy manager staff time allocation will need to be rolled into the dues equation somewhere else to fully fund the position. Please also note that the AOC board has a discussion about the overall dues structure on their to-do list.
So because I had the two. So yes, we do.
Like dues are voluntary but required for voting privileges.
Right, so we paid it. So that's right. That makes it ring a bell.
I'm in favor of supporting the disbanding of it. It can always be resurrected in a new form if needed down the road, or even, it doesn't sound like it accomplished a lot. It certainly, there were a lot of conversations and understandings that came through those, but but I have not ever sat on the Natural Resources Steering Committee. If they say that these issues can be worked through that sounds great.
I think we can. And knowing that, well, we know we're gonna be paying $15,000 to do cities for our counties association.
That's where we get our bang for the buck.
Money might be the worst thing.
I don't know if we'd get that 3,100 back, cause like they're gonna have to fund the natural resources, which is fine, but we're still gonna get benefit there. Then we might see some back, regardless, it's not that big of an amount. But I think I'm in agreement with you, I see the two working against, almost possibly against each other.
I think it probably had a good start, just thinking they could really drill down on the needs of the federal lands aspects of natural resources, but at this point, it doesn't really sound like, I didn't see anyone come up on the net after the email came out to say, no, we need to keep it.
No, it's very contentious and
And it's only been in place.
2017.
Right, I think it's starting, I think Mark was one of the forces behind starting it. And I think Blue Mountain is part of the big focus then for us. Now that's totally different.
Now it's got,
The
the
big-
law council's off doing its
Yeah.
thing, and things are being handled, and EOCA has gotten very strong.
So, your thoughts?
I would feel comfortable with disbanding it because I don't think it's functioning as it was originally designed.
Send an email to, or what do you want to, I don't care.
Would you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Review of water use requests.
It looked like there were a couple that were extensions of time to either perfect a permit or, one that was in the works, and then, there was permit amendments, but really no, as we would expect, no new
They
things.
weren't doing any more extensions was my confusion after seeing that in my conversation with, who's the gentleman at the top of that department.
I can picture him.
Yeah, I can see him, he came to that meeting.
Short name.
I have him on my phone.
Well, I could be wrong, but I noticed on,
I swear that he said that they were not going to continue.
This one's a 5-year
in,
proposal, believe it's 2025.
in my 3 years of looking at these, and I could be wrong, but on that one, usually you see application for extension of time, but this was to perfect water right permit. So maybe they, right, maybe there are just some that that are more complicated or something.
Or is it they weren't in the original? Or is it not in the original, in the area that's under extension? But Harney Manager Lakes, to me, that is, this other one,
It was, yeah.
Poison Creek, is a different source. And that's just an extension of time.
To perfect water right permit. So some of the old water right permits appear to have been very, have a lot of errors and various ones attached, and perhaps perfecting a water use permit means unraveling it and making it the way it's supposed to be. I don't
Well,
know.
you have to prove it
Yes.
to make sure that it's a
Yeah.
beneficial use.
Right, that's the
So I
basic
don't know if
thing,
that's
but
just, they needed longer to prove beneficial use.
probably not, because that would just be a regular extension. I think extending the time to perfect one, some of them, I understand, from a long time ago were really faulty, put it that way. Faulty in how they read and how they track.
transfer application. You're just moving it from one part of your property to another part of property.
Yeah, that's generally my understanding.
Sure that I never want us to have to be able to deal with
I don't know, it might not be over allocated if that was the case.
that. Good point.
We would have checked our own.
Or you have a little bit more, second amendment activity going on if we were in-house, taking care of business.
I mean, basically, we look at these, or we can,
We just look to see,
we
so that
can
we're gonna
always
know what's
comment
happening.
on them, it's gonna cost
Information
us.
is, that's for, yes,
You put your trust in the states doing the right thing, but obviously,
they have not.
they have not, yeah. With all the flare up, maybe they are. It's just scary. And more so for ranchers and the town boy.
We're going to put a lot
That's
of
like telling-
entities in jeopardy.
As I always told Nicholas. City mouse and the town mouse and the county mouse. Okay, correspondence. Going, first next Wednesday. Budget, 9 to noon. Awesome. So I have someone, they asked, Patty, for your information, that I'll print off, I'll have all new budgets printed off, so everybody can go through and check the comments that you got.
Is there any way we can check them prior to the next meeting, so we've already got that checked?
I had a long ways on it yesterday, yeah. Yeah, if I can get it printed off,
I mean, that way, we don't have to sit there and.
maybe Friday I can get it printed off.
That'd be awesome.
I've got,
Or
I got
Monday.
FTE, I got FTEs in all departments.
Oh, good, good.
I went through, I changed every department, maybe every department. We did the tech service line, so that's how we pay the contractor, Jeremy. For Aztec. So went through and did an inventory of how many computers in all departments and broke it out. Some were real close, some were high, some were low, but anyway, I made them all to what they are, so there's changes there, but it doesn't amount to nothing.
They're more of a,
It's just more better picture.
yeah, and more
And
accurate.
I'm still gonna do that, and she just went through, phones are interesting.
Yeah, I've always wondered, because I
So
know
we
you.
went through how many lines are in each department.
Oh,
You have a base rate for a phone, but then there's long distance. The base rate is 17. We're gonna add $5 to every phone for long distance. And it puts us $200 or $300 higher than a monthly bill, but gives us a little cushion. Sometimes the phone's up, which I've never done.
good. Better than
Every
the
year a
time.
little bit.
Yeah, just
It's better
trying
and
to be
better.
more thorough.
So there'll be some changes in every department, just more accurate picture.
So I guess, so we have the May 27th meeting for budget, and we have a June 24th meeting, county court to adopt the budget. Prior to that, we have on June 17th, public meeting to approve the budget. And if we, for some reason, had to have one more meeting, we would get it, squeeze it in the first 2 weeks of
Yep.
June. Okay,
Yep.
that's reasonable. Of course, if phase 2 for us, if all goes well, started on June 5th, then that means I will be tied up for the 2 weeks before that, leading through the hoops, right?
Let's hope the hoops
for
aren't
the
as
state.
expensive as they were. I don't think it'll be as expensive. Are you willing to do that?
Just say, as the state says, sign it.
Well, we made reservations at the coast on June 4th, so things better be.
I just had written down phase 2, if all goes well, we'd start then, and hopefully there won't be a lot more required from the county level for planning in a formal sense. But we'll do what we need to do. Okay.
I had written in on the 10th of June, Trinity
Lodging tax.
lodging tax meeting. Are we still planning on proceeding?
I would take that one out. We haven't, COVID basically derailed that, so we're still gonna have that meeting with the hoteliers.
Or wait until we're in phase 2 perhaps and have a meeting?
Yeah.
Did I miss,
See if we can get it scheduled in July sometime. I told them we would do it, we will do it. They just kind of.
take it off for the 10th?
Take it off for the 10th at this point.
So that we're over the 25 in case we have a large participation.
Yeah, a lot of their attitudes like it, nobody's in travel, I'm not even renting rooms, so I work at Scotia right now.
Well, the discussions all took place.
It is. Let's see if we can do some fun factor. Do your thing.
For what they say.
So what were you saying on the 24th of June?
That'll be a county court meeting to adopt the budget at 1:30.
Half hour meeting.
So it's in addition to the other county court,
So we have to adopt,
because it's the
levy,
3rd and the 17th.
Yeah.
And then
we have to adopt and levy the taxes and puts everything in place for the next year. Assessor has to have that by 9/1. We have to have that done by 9/1. So did you have something tomorrow?
Apparently. He sent the, first notice to a different venue than he always sends the notices, and so it must have been spam.
So what was it?
It is the wildfire
Yeah.
collaborative.
It's just different than the restoration collaborative.
See, now you
But the same individual runs them, and so that's where I was confused. I'm like, well, we just met last week for the other. So.
and if I can,
Yeah,
I didn't know if anybody was,
I don't.
anybody had on their schedule, so.
No, I didn't have it on there.
Is that one of their regular meetings or is this a special one?
It's a regular one.
I've never even
I
thought.
think they're talking about the 21-inch rule in this meeting too.
They talked about
Or
that
is that-
last week.
okay, see, I've got it mixed up
Oh,
too.
yeah, I wasn't able to go to Friday,
I've
so
got,
how was
see,
that?
I got it mixed up too.
Oh, okay, okay.
I know that they're getting a lot of pushback from certain entities on it.
Gotta cut those 21-inch trees.
You have to, to achieve the actual goal.
Yeah, I'm arguing with
Management.
a cousin of mine in Bend about that.
Really?
Yeah.
And that was a question I was wondering if we needed to pose to Dominic as far as having something written up from the county, to submit when it's ready. You know, obviously that'll be in the fall,
Yeah, but yes,
but
that'd be,
give him a bit of a lead on
yeah.
having something prepared. So I thought I made contact with him on that.
Yeah, that would be good use of money.
Yes, then we'd have an official response to this.
So that ruling for the grazing permits in Mount Hero, did you see that got thrown out by the Ninth Circuit?
Where did you see that?
Gosh, I think it was in Facebook, might have something. Yeah, I'm sure it was on the posting. But that big lawsuit, I think it said there's 7 or 9 grazing permits up there. And Honda, they lost from the Ninth Circuit.
I mean, is this very.
Doesn't mean the
recent,
Honda. I think it's the one that certain local ranchers have been involved in for a long
Wow,
time.
I'll have to look. I did see that the Hemmings withdrew.
Their appeal currently, they're still have a placeholder for being compensated and.
Right.
haven't seen that.
Yeah, there was an article in the Blues, Blue Eagle,
Blue Mountain.
Blue Mountain Eagle. There was an article on the details of it.
I think that's on Facebook.
But I haven't heard anything coming down. And it still had to come down from the secretary down to the local offices and yeah, we go like procedure and application process. So I thought I'd touch check and see if you heard anything. Forward.
He called last week. They're gonna soft reopening of their campgrounds. He said the first of this week, so probably going. So that's good.
I think there's lots of campers planning on heading out, so they need to.
Yes.
Today I'm here at the courthouse, just got a whole bunch of Zoom or conference call things to, late afternoon.
Gina just sent out something that there had been an update to the CRF funding request form.
That's what Patty
Oh,
read
yeah,
off.
that was before court started.
So
right?
that was that document of the update.
She said, I can't really tell what's different, but something's different.
And Pete's on it, that's what he's filling out.
Does food delivery to residents on it there?
Jolene sent me that last week, and Rob had sent it out. And Gina, but it had said draft on it. And Jolene was afraid I missed the book. Sorry, have you seen this? Are you doing this? It says draft. I'm checking.
Well, I did.
I mean, everybody's got their eyes open for don't miss an opportunity. So I don't mind. I don't miss any opportunities either. So I'm on this one, Jolene. So they're having a drive-up testing day.
Today?
That's scary. What if they can find positives? What does that do to us?
Nothing if they aren't hospitalized.
It shouldn't, yeah.
It's when you have 5 hospitalized,
Oh.
that's when you're up because people can have it, but it all depends on how it's affecting them.
I read something the other day that another sign could be itchy skin.
You're like,
I told you,
this time of year is
it might-
There's always something.
They have this eczema and it's been itching lately. It ain't the same thing. I know it's not.
You can either really think you've got lots of things or deny you have anything when you're seriously messed up. You can do the whole range.
Okay, well, anything else?
I don't think so.
Adjourn at 11:35. I can have the thing of our rural meetings. I think we just wait until the fall and see what's going on. And
Yeah.
if we miss the fall, then we missed. If we do it in spring, then we just miss every 1 year. It definitely won't be 25 in the room though. There might be 4 or 5.
Yeah. Sometimes when we go out to the rural areas as a county court to, have kind of an informal, whatever they want to talk about, maybe, sometimes we would have pretty good attendance, but sometimes we would have really poor attendance too. So it's hard to find the right time where people aren't busy.
After school, it doesn't work. Well, it's lighter later in the day. Your ranch around fields longer. I mean, it just does not work.